lots of people know the big ERPs, the Microsoft Dynamics, the SAPs, the Oracles. And if you've worked for any company that has the name Fortune in the front and a number in the back, you've probably used at least one of those in the past. Are there other smaller ERPs that you see coming in the last 10, 15, 20 years, more on the startup side? What does the landscape look like? Are they pushing everyone to get better? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing there?
Yeah, let me react to that. You've called out the global players, no question about that. Something that I ended up researching maybe 6 months ago or a year ago that I find fascinating. If you look at all the manufacturers, either in Canada or the US, the numbers are roughly the same. The number that are over 500 employees, it's under 1%. The 100 to 499, whoa, sorry, the hand gesture, the Zoom button, my camera. The 100, I'll be careful. The 100 to 499 is 1 to 2%, right? And then there's everybody else. What does that mean? That means that although we know those global names, the SAPs, the Oracles, the Microsofts, I put maybe Infor in there, there is certainly a tier beneath that. Epicor, Plex, IFS, you could argue, the top tier. And then there's a tier, I would argue, even below that, which would be specialty ERPs for a specific industry, whether it be specialized assets or some very unique business case or business model. But I always think of, or used to think of the ERP space as maybe whatever, 8, 10. It's hard to name more than a dozen, but there are still hundreds. Okay, it's remarkable that there are still hundreds. So then the question becomes, why would I pick one versus the other? And I think if you look at a Fortune 500 versus a smaller company, certainly in terms of revenue or how profitability, whatever, add a 0 or 2, of course, that's what everybody thinks about. But when you think about the staff to run the system, or the fact that maybe that ERP is like the most expensive piece of technology they have, and if I'm a smaller manufacturer, I need to be able to produce value very quickly. Maybe my processes aren't super complex. I just need something to mitigate the risk of these Excel sheets that I'm using to run my business. So you've got the different profile of the buyer. Whereas if you look at a Fortune 500, they might have the resources to have a full-time team on this thing. So to answer your question, look, there's still a lot of products out there. I don't know if it's hundreds, but there's a lot of them out there. The big ones tend to serve that top, whatever it is, 2-3% of the market. And then there's a lot of other ones beneath that. Answer your question about innovation. I'm always intrigued by the smaller companies, or the ones that evolved not from the place that your Oracle, Microsoft evolved from. There are open source tools, for instance. That comes with maybe a different set of challenges, but they're there. The other thing that's happening in the space is this notion of a composable ERP, which means if you look at the big players, common wisdom says it's a big monolithic thing, and you either take it all or you leave it all. But if I'm a manufacturer, if I'm a business that does well because I do a specific process really well, maybe that stuff isn't for me. So maybe I just want to take some of the core pieces for, I'll call it the commodity processing. And then there might be innovative things that I do that make me competitive, that I need to do something differently. So that's an interesting thing that's happening, is this notion of a composable ERP. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into that. But there's a lot of them out there. It's just one other data point on that. If you look at any report from SAP, from Microsoft, probably from Oracle, I haven't done it, and they make reference to their ecosystem partners. And to me, when I read that, the reason that's important is it's an acknowledgement that there are specialty needs and requirements in the marketplace that require industry expertise or context. Even if it's not a specialty ERP tool, you need to couple the technology with the expertise from the implementation partner to deliver the outcome you want. There's multiple ways to skin that cat. It might not always be the upstart ERP, but the notion of context, industry context, is super important. So